This is where we get into like the philosophy of like, what is housing? Like, is housing? No, like, and this is where it's like, I have empathy for both sides. Like, I have empathy for the Puerto Rican family that worked their entire life and they were able to like buy this brownstone and they were told that like real estate is the only thing. Like, my parents were financially illiterate. They got lucky. They bought an artisan residence loft in a neighborhood that was too fucking dangerous for us to live in that ended up getting flipped around by NYU. It's like pure luck, you know? So it's like, so I have empathy for these people that put everything in it, right? And then at the same time, I also see there are people that are kind of holding hostage an asset class that we maybe should look more at as like, I don't want to say a utility, but like there can be a little bit more restriction when it comes to like a roof over your head. So I have empathy for your communist position.
I was getting nervous about his own thoughts. I see you. He said, I gotta get out of this. I don't know how I got here. I'm looking in his face.
No, it's like,
no, but I hear you. This is, I mean,
you can probably articulate what I'm saying.
No,
better, but
it's that you have something which is a necessity for people's lives.
It's tricky. So it's like, what if somebody invested in water?
It's been treated, and it's been treated as a means by which to make profit.
Yeah.
And so I know that there are many who bought into this system with the promise of unrestricted profit. That's what it was before the HSTPA.
Yeah.
And one of the issues you're hearing from a lot of landlords is they entered into loans with banks that could only be paid back if they evicted a majority of the tenants who were paying the rent at the time they purchased the building.
Yeah.
And that's also why I have empathy when we're hearing about insurance costs and water bills and Con Ed and property taxes, because those are also costs that are skyrocketing.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's how do we create a city where we understand housing as a human right and also ensure that our affordability agenda is universal. It's tenants, homeowners, landlords.
I think in order to do it, like in order to do it with rent stabilization or rent control, it's going to need to be government funded, because I don't think any private developers are going to see the incentive structure that they need to put that kind of capital in. And if you're going to do it, you're going to have to raise money. And I saw on one of your things was you were considering, selling muni bonds, right? And I think you want to raise like $100 billion over 10 years, right? So we're looking at like, I think 70% of that was coming from the muni bonds. So it's like, we're looking at, let's say on average.
We're saying we're at 30 million. We got to get, 30 million.
But like, and like, it's an ambitious endeavor, There are some limitations, as I'm sure you looked at, and this is where we go back to Albany. It's like, I looked into this. It's like, you got to raise the debt ceiling in order to be able to do that. Like, you got to ask Kathy to do that. Or if Kathy loses, you got to ask, what is it, Stefanik?
We're not even talking about Stefanik.
Then that's not going to happen. Yeah. They're going to fight you tooth and nail.
We're not going to have to worry about that hypothetical.
Okay.
With Stefanik.
Okay, fair enough.
But you look.
So what do you do in that scenario? Because
I think this is, we're talking about, right, the current law is 10% of the 5-year valuation of real estate in New York City, right? And having to change that. And I think this is where politicians don't get to decide the scale of the crisis they're facing. They get to decide how they want to respond to it.
Facts.
And so this is an ambitious agenda, no question about it. But this is a time where if we don't match that crisis with that ambition, we're going to lose people.
But you are held hostage by their will to match.
That's what I'm saying.
And what I would argue is that I've been in Albany. I've seen legislators and legislative leaders who've had a vision of a city where you tax the wealthiest a little bit more to provide for everyone. And they haven't had a partner in a mayor. It's not to say it's going to be easy, but my point is that we haven't even tried.
Ooh, right? This is interesting.
So Andrew Cuomo is an example of not trying. He had 10 years of running the state.
He had some debts to cover up. Poor guy, you know what I mean? He's got his hands full. Groping some people. It was busy. His hands were full, literally.
Sliwa had a bar, dude. Killing grannies and grabbing fannies is on his bar.
Sliwa had some bars on the debate stage.
You love his hat. You want that shit.
I can't believe that I'm being called a communist and the Republican nominees wearing the red ring.
Bro, I keep calling him Emily in Paris. But shout out Curtis. But yes, so what you're saying is...
You're like shouting out a sponsor of the show.
Yeah, the Netflix show. But shout out Kalshi. You're at 80%.
It's going well.
No, but so what you're saying is that there might be people in Albany that are more sympathetic, but because they've been up against a mayor in New York that has maybe no sympathy because they've been put in power by people who do not want this change, then they're not willing to. That's an interesting perspective. that they do not have the political capital.
The coalition. And I think this is the other thing is that we, from the beginning of this race, we wanted to break out of the bubble of New York City politics and get into the world of New York City.
I thought you just didn't want to go to Israel. I thought that's what this whole thing was about. No, go on. One of the best moments ever. It was that moment, and then the one in the debate recently where fucking Cuomo couldn't say whether he was going to go to the Mets game or the Knicks game.
He said he wanted to go to both.
Bro, and like, you'll have moments
just
where...
pick one.
Exactly.
Just pick it.
Exactly. You'll have moments where like you cut through like political fraudulence, and he's just like, I would do half and half, and you go, this guy.
When they asked the question in my mind, I was like, there's no wrong answer here. And then he created the wrong answer. And it's like, just pick an answer.
It is a 5-year-old answer.
How are you going to do both?
It's the next game, though. It's all right.
Come on.
Because you're so poised, you're so articulate, and he said it, and you're just like, this fucking. Like I saw you throw your hands up.
You created that.
Yeah.
Anyway, I mean, it's. But look, I grew up in the city, and I've often seen the city that our politics cares about, and then the rest of the city, and there's that divide. And when I actually spoke to Trump voters, in Queens and in the Bronx, it felt like here was a campaign that was bridging that divide, that was getting beyond that bubble.
Right.
And we have to, if we want to actually have people believe in democracy, we have to show that democracy can deliver on their needs. Right. Like, I can't go and knock on somebody's door and say, help me fight for the ideal or the value of democracy. I have to go to that door and say, this is how this democracy is going to make it easier for you to afford your apartment.
Yes.
This is how this democracy is going to make it easier for you to afford your groceries. I mean, Fiorello LaGuardia said, you can't preach liberty to a starving land. And that's what we've been doing for so many years.
So what do you do? And this is like my concern. What do you do if you get strung up by the bureaucracy in the system? Because after talking to you, and even before talking to you, I genuinely think you believe this stuff. I don't think you're somebody who's like selling a dream that you don't believe in. And I don't think it's possible to communicate in the way that you've communicated and like touch people
without authenticity.
Without the authenticity. But like, I'm worried about entrenched politics.
Yep.
And I'm worried about the people that fund them, because they're the same people that have been fundraising against you.
No.
Okay? And I'm worried about them bending to their whim. And what scares me a little bit is there are going to be people that are incentivized for you to fail. Mm-hmm. And then if that pendulum swings all the way the other way, how many more people get hurt? And I guess my question is like, do you ever worry about that? Or do you have to be so blinders on that you're going to win? Like, I love this city more than anything. And it is something I consider. Like, what if we get the complete opposite of you that has like no care about the tenants, no care about what people are paying rent? Some guy who comes in and just goes, hey, this is a free market. Welcome to New York. It's capitalism.
You're talking about Andrew Cuomo.
But like,
Right?
I think it can be crazier than that.
No, and I think my point here is that there is going to be immense opposition. There are incredible incentives to fight our agenda. What gives me hope is that the billionaires spending millions against me right now, they're not doing so because they're afraid my plans won't work. They're doing so because they're afraid that they will.
And how would that not incentivize them in some way? If people in the city have more money, they have more money to spend on whatever business they have. Like,
if you look at the actual studies of free buses, it costs $700 million. It generates more than double that in economic benefit.
Put a bus on Second Avenue.
You're a one-issue voter. I was asking myself, who is Curtis Lee talking to? I'm not extending the Second Avenue subway, and it's this guy.
Curtis, I love you, baby. I love you, comrade.
It's Mr. Housing is a human right, but I don't want trains to 125th Street.